All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Driving Forward podcast for April 6th, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Times. We have Rodney Wilson, Communication Manager at the American Red Cross. And today we're going to talk about the need for blood donations, the great demand that's going on right now. Well, Rodney, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We appreciate you taking the time. What we try and do here is just educate drivers on various topics, and today we want to talk about service. And one of the things that we'd like to cover is certainly drivers who are already out in the community being able to go and donate blood and the great need that exists right now. Why don't you go ahead and talk about what kind of demand we have at this time?
Yeah, I think one of the things, as we've gotten into this pandemic and we've seen a lot of things have changed. We're seeing a lot of side effects of businesses closing, schools closing, side effects that maybe nobody really thought about before. And one of those side effects is that as so many of these groups are closing or canceling, they're canceling their scheduled blood drives as well. So an example, we get 20% of blood donations come from schools. So when schools close, 20% of blood donations suddenly disappear.
Right.
So this has been a big challenge for us in having a lot of both state and national leadership urging businesses to close, urging schools to close. And then that's really just forced cancellations. But patients are still in the hospital needing blood every day. So blood drives are an essential service that must continue even in a pandemic so that patients can get the medical treatments that they need.
Sure. And I'm sure if anybody's watched the news, they've seen appeals going out there, I know for at least the last week, 2 weeks. But we want to step up as drivers. Now, we're already out in the community, so we're not asking people who are just quarantining at home or under a stay-at-home order. They're already providing an essential service. So we'd like to see drivers in our gig driver community to take a little bit of time and in between shifts or whatever and show up and donate blood. Now, what are the various types of blood donations that you need at this time?
Yeah, there's different ways that you can donate blood. Of course, what we just call a whole blood donation, which is we put the needle in and we take what comes out, and it all goes into one bag, and then we process it and separate it in our lab. But you can also give specific elements of blood. You can give just platelets, just plasma, or just red blood cells in what we call a power red donation. And we might request that you do one of those types of donations depending on what your blood type is. So for example, O negative is the universal red blood cell. So we want more of your red blood cells and less of those other things from you. So we might suggest if you're O negative, you try giving the power red donation where we're going to take twice as many red blood cells and return the rest of your elements of blood to you. So depending on your blood type, that's where we would recommend which type of donation is good for you so that we can get the best product for the hospital patients.
Outstanding. Now, how do drivers go about finding a place to donate blood?
So we have different donation centers and mobile blood drives. Part of the problem now is that so many of our mobile blood drives have canceled, but we still are operating donation centers and blood drives within our own Red Cross facilities. So the best place to find a blood drive or donation center near you is on our website, redcrossblood.org. And on the website, you can search by date range. You can search by mile radius of your zip code. We recommend, especially right now, since so many blood drives are being canceled, If you live in a more remote area, it may be that there isn't a blood drive available for another week or 2 weeks. So we recommend that when you do a search for blood drives, to increase the mile radius and increase the date range. So look for maybe the next month or so, look at a greater mile radius to see what might be around you, and find an opportunity there. And so you can do that online, but if websites aren't really your thing, you can also call us at 1-800-RED CROSS. And kind of the same thing. You can find a blood drive that's near you based on your zip code.
Great. Well, that sounds pretty easy to do. And I just want to encourage drivers out there, if you have trouble, contact us at AIW via the Facebook group or the website, and we can help you find a location. Also, we'd like you to go ahead and put in the comments when you go donate blood, because we have really no way of telling what the impact of this is, but there are millions of you out there, and we're sure that we can make a difference by encouraging you while you're out there to just plan on stopping at a donation center. Now, do they need to make an appointment?
Well, so under normal times, we like people to make an appointment, but we say that they can also walk in. But right now, in this pandemic situation, we've implemented a number of additional safety measures at our blood drives, and that also includes social distancing. So part of what you'll see at a Red Cross blood drive right now is we're checking temperatures before you go into a blood drive, including our own staff and volunteers. We are having everyone use hand sanitizer throughout the process, including our team members and donors. We're wiping down all donor touch points throughout the process in between blood donors. And we're actually distancing the donation beds further apart and each station further apart to be in line with social distancing standards. So because we are trying to control the number of people that are in each site at any given time, we're really stressing appointments more so than usual. So we're asking that you not just show up without an appointment, just because if we have 100 people show up at the same site at the same time during a pandemic, it will be hard for us to ensure social distancing and all the safety measures that we have in place. So really important to make that appointment so that we can know when to expect you and keep everybody in line with the safety protocols that we're using right now.
Totally makes sense. And, scheduling is probably a good idea because drivers have different shifts that they work. So you can schedule an appointment at a time that's convenient for you and fits in with your routine. But you can get in there and do that. And you pointed out social distancing and the safety precautions that you have implemented. One of the question that I would have is, do I show up with PPE? Do I wear gloves? Do I wear a mask? Do you have those? How does that work?
Yeah, I think that is up to each donor on what they feel comfortable with. So as I've been going to blood drives and working with donors each day, I've seen the donors show up. Some of them don't have masks and gloves on. Some of them show up wearing masks and gloves. We're not providing those things to blood donors, but our staff are wearing them. So staff are wearing gloves and changing between each donor, and they also have masks on. So if you are comfortable wearing those, you're welcome to. If you don't feel like you need those, you don't have to wear those to the donation site.
Sure. And that makes sense. I see drivers out there. I do a lot of DoorDash food delivery. So I'm out there, and some drivers have it on and some don't, and varying degrees of it. Just depends on your comfort level. I do a lot of hand sanitizing, after each food pickup, after each drop off. I have a big old jug of the hand sanitizer. That's my routine. It's kind of hard to operate the cell phone with gloves on.
Yeah.
So makes a little bit of a difference. I'm kind of leaning toward getting a mask pretty soon, but right now it's in Phoenix, Arizona. We're not really having a big spike, so I feel pretty confident and pretty safe in what we're doing. And restaurants are great about distancing right now. So, so bottom line is, whatever your comfort level is, that's what you go in there with. If you want to have more or less, that's up to you. The staff is prepared themselves
Right.
to have that. So great. And again, I just want to motivate drivers, be out there helping your community in every way you can. And this is one of the ways that you can do it. It will make a big difference. You won't even know the people you've helped, but you can know that you're helping.
All right. I think that's a good point about this is something that you can do in this situation as we're in this pandemic, and it's new for all of us. We're all trying to figure out what can we do and what can't we do.
Right.
And I want to help, and I don't know how. And there are a number of ways that you can help your community right now, and giving blood is a really unique one. Every 2 seconds, someone in the United States needs a blood transfusion for some reason. Every 2 seconds. And that need continues even in a pandemic. So hospitals are able to cancel elective surgeries, and many of them have right now. So surgeries that can wait, like a hip replacement that's just been scheduled far in advance, those things can wait. They can be put on hold, and we won't need the blood for those. But there are things like cancer treatments happening every day that still must continue. Women are still giving birth to babies and might hemorrhage. Newborn infants oftentimes might need a transfusion if they're premature. And accidents are still happening every day. So there are things that we can't wait, are put on hold, where patients will still need this blood every day. And in this time when so many blood drives are being canceled, it's even more important that people make an effort to make sure that the blood is going to be there on the hospital shelves for those patients.
Great. Well, you're right. We don't have a lot that's under our control, and this is one of the things that is. And again, it makes a lot of sense for drivers who are already out in the community performing their essential services to take an hour of their time. How long does it take? I mean, I know it's depends on how busy a facility is, but in general, once you get strapped into the chair, how long does it take?
Yeah, your whole process from sign in to walking out the door is about an hour of time. So if you've never gone to a blood drive before, don't be afraid. I know everybody's afraid of needles. There's really nothing to be afraid of. It's not a painful process. So when you show up at a blood drive, you check in at the reception desk, and they'll give you a packet of materials to read through, and that helps you determine your basic eligibility. And so once you read that material, you'll move on to a health history station, where you'll sit down with a Red Cross staff person. They're going to do a mini physical on you to make sure you're in good condition. So they're going to check your temperature, your pulse, your blood pressure, and they're also going to check your iron level in your blood, as well as finish your donor questionnaire. And once you're done with that, then you move on to the donor bed, and that's where everybody starts to get afraid. But that part, that's like the quickest and easiest part. You're on the donation bed only for about 5 minutes. That part is so fast and easy. And, people just have anxiety about needles, but I can tell you that the needle, you feel a quick pinch as it goes into your arm, and then you don't feel anything after that. It isn't painful as the blood flows into the bag for about 5 minutes. That's not a painful process. And after 5 minutes, you're done, and you get to move on to the refreshment area and have snacks and goodies that we have there for you. And
keep your blood sugar back up a little bit, right?
Exactly, yeah. I've had so many people, whenever I see a first-time person coming into a blood drive, never given before, you can see that look on their face where they're afraid of what's going to happen. So I tend to stick with them and stand next to them throughout the process, just keep them company and walk them through it, talk them through it. And when it's over, they always say, that wasn't nearly as bad as I had hyped it up to be in my head, and
Sure.
they would be back. So nothing to be afraid of. And literally with that 1 hour of your time, we can take your blood donation, we separate it into platelets, plasma, and red blood cells. Those could go to 3 different kinds of patients. And with 1 hour of your time, you're helping to save up to 3 lives. That's incredible.
Beautiful. And you mentioned something, so I'm going to ask, how often can you donate blood? What's safe? What's a safe interval between donations?
Yeah, you can give blood every 56 days. So it's up to 6 times a year. And that interval is set to give your body time to regenerate the volume of red blood cells in your system. But typically within 24 hours, your body has replenished the liquid volume. It just takes a little while longer for your red blood cell volume to be back up to where it needs to be. But up to 6 times a year. I will say that only about 3% of the total population has ever donated blood. So it's a very small number. Very few people donate blood. So if you're used to hearing like blood shortage messages, it's because so few people donate blood, and we have to work really hard to get enough blood to meet patient needs and not over collect, so that because it has a shelf life. We don't want to collect so much, and you can't stockpile it in advance and throw it in the freezer and then pull it out on a rainy day. But it doesn't work that way.
Right.
It only has a shelf life for about 40 days. So we have to collect enough that we know it will be used within that 40-day window. But typically we're struggling to make sure we have enough coming in.
So are there any potential donors who can self-eliminate because of a current health condition? Obviously, if they're sick with some sort of viral illness, they wouldn't be able to. But if they have any other sorts of illnesses that would exclude them from donation.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, we want to make sure that anybody who comes to give blood is healthy and feeling well. So if you are sick in any capacity, if you have the sniffles, you're getting over a cold, or if you're sick in some other way, then don't donate blood, because that's not for you. You need to make sure that you're going to be healthy before you try sharing that health with other people. But the general criteria is that you need to be 16 years old or 17 in some states, and you have to be a minimum of 110 pounds and in general good health. So we do check your temperature and your blood pressure. There's a number of other criteria that might make you ineligible. International travel can make you need to wait for about a year from the last point of international travel, depending on where you went. Different kinds of medications that you're taking could make you ineligible.
What about someone who's diabetic? Can they donate?
Yes, you can donate if you are diabetic. So as long as that is being managed and you're feeling well, then you can donate if you have diabetes.
Great.
Yes.
Great. All right. Anything else you want the folks to know before we wrap this up?
Well, you had mentioned about the convalescent plasma initiative, where this is kind of becoming big in the news right now, this concept of using the plasma from individuals who have recovered from COVID-19 to help those who are currently sick. And so the Red Cross, along with other blood banks, are partnering with the FDA on this concept, and we'll be working on this. The details are still being developed at this time, but when that's all set up and ready to go, the Red Cross will be identifying individuals who are fully recovered from COVID-19, and are no longer exhibiting symptoms. And if you are one of those individuals, you went through COVID-19 and you have successfully gotten better, and you have a test that proved that you actually had COVID-19, you may qualify for this process where we would collect plasma from you and then use that to treat individuals who are still sick. And so will be a very controlled process. So individuals who are interested, don't just show up at a blood drive if you're one of those individuals. It has to be done with special equipment at select sites, and it has to be scheduled in advance. So if you think you might be a good candidate for that, you can go to redcrossblood.org, and there's more in details there. You actually fill out a form online and submit it, and then we would work with you to determine if you're a good candidate for that.
Okay. Which kind of begs the question, and I know it's anecdotal, but some people experience such mild symptoms, they might not be aware that they even had it.
Mm-hmm.
And if they go to donate blood, and they had a mild instance of it, aren't aware that they had it, is that something that they would find out later? Is that something that you check for just in a regular blood donation, or is that something that somebody would have had to have been aware that they had it, and you're going ahead and taking those people in a special program?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the Red Cross and no blood bank really tests for respiratory viruses because it's not transmissible by blood transfusion. So there's been no recorded cases of any type of respiratory illness being transmitted by a blood transfusion. So we don't do tests for that. So when you come to donate blood, we're not testing for COVID-19 or other respiratory illnesses. So the program.
But I was kind of meaning like the antibodies, because that's what you're really going after, right? In the blood is the antibodies. So I didn't think there was
So with the plasma that would have the antibodies that could help COVID-19 patients, you would need to know through a test that you actually had COVID-19. And if you did and you recovered, then that's when we would encourage you to go to our website and submit your information through that form. And we would follow up with you to determine, based on all of the details, if you're a good candidate to become a donor for that. So it's not like we want the general population to all rush to become one of those donors. It has to be a steady flow and proven that you have recovered from that illness.
Sure. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Well, it's a lot of exciting stuff on the horizon. Hopefully we get this thing behind us in not just quick order, but we want it to be done. We want to be done with it, so we don't want it to come back. So we want to be safe. Exactly. All right. Well, Rodney, we appreciate your time, and I think this has been very informative. I hope all our drivers out there will consider setting up an appointment, going in and donating blood. You're not just giving life, but you're giving hope to people, especially in a time when it's very, very stressful. I think us feeling like we can do something positive for our neighbors and our friends is really empowering, and I think something that we can really latch on to.